Life in America with Nelia. And we are here at Wisconsin. So one of our activities is boat tour. I have to tell you, you have to watch this. It's so fantastic and beautiful. The video itself speaks the beauty of nature. So relax and enjoy. But hey, if you can come here, it's really good to see it by your eyes. But if you don't have yet the ways and the means, so watch my video and it's like you are here sitting in the boat enjoying the view of Wisconsin River. Watch it.
Alright, here we go. We're ready to board.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome aboard the General Bailey. How's everyone on the bottom deck doing today? Good. Back deck, can I get a wave? Nice. Top deck, can't quite see or hear you. If you guys want to tap your feet on the floorboards for us. Alright, I heard a couple measly taps up there. Hope you're doing alright. Alright, we're now embarking on our 2-hour, 10-mile round trip of the beautiful upper dells of the Wisconsin River. Along the way, we're making 2 stops. The first is at the Witch's Gulch, which is a glacial meltwater canyon. And the second stop is at Stand Rock, the trademark of Wisconsin Dells, where we will see our jumping German Shepherd. Before we get going too far, we'll introduce the crew, so we're not complete strangers today. My name is Bryn. I'll be your tour guide. This is my 8th year working for Dells Boat Tours. I'm a tour guide. I drive these tour boats and I drive the jet boats on the upper Dells. I just finished up my master's degree in Irish literature from Trinity College Dublin, so I just moved home from Ireland about a month ago. But I am from here in the Dells. Any questions about anything around here, I'll do my best to help you out. And if I don't know the answer, I'll just make something up. That is a joke, of course. Alright, at this time I'm going to hand the mic over to your captain today. His name is Gabe. He'll tell you a little bit about himself, he'll give you some more rules and regulations, and then he'll start off the tour. Here he is.
Good. Welcome aboard the General Bailey. My name is Gabe. We're your captain out here. How's it going?
Good.
Thank you. I'm from the Dells. This is my hometown. This is my 13th season with the boats. Been driving for over a decade now. One of a couple guys that drives the big white boat off to the right, the Clipper Winnebago. For dinner cruises in the summertime, do that about half the week. Done a little bit of everything here. Dells Boat Tours, maintenance, dinner cruise, these boats, a bit of everything, except jet boats. Bryn does that. I can't do that. Too fast for me. Third generation of my family to be out here driving boats of one kind or another. And I do have a 100-ton master's license with the U.S. Coast Guard, inland waters of the United States. You don't need that out here. These are, this is a state-run stretch of water since 1996. I just got my federal license to increase my opportunities, proficiency, and experience. So if you have any questions about pretty much anything, should be able to come up with an answer for you. A few safety rules and regs before we get going too far up the river. First off, please, no smoking aboard the vessel, including e-cigarettes or anything of the sort. Obviously, as a courtesy to your fellow passengers, but also because we're sitting on top of a couple gasoline engines and the boat was built to float in the water and not fly through the air. So please, no smoking aboard. You can do that at the end of our first shore landing, the Witch's Gulch. There's a designated smoking area at the end of the walk where you may partake. That's the only spot on the tour. Everything else is close quarters or a fire hazard. Anytime the boat is in motion, we ask that for the most part you remain in your seat. You're riding on a moving object, which is on a moving object. We may have some moving objects moving past us semi-frequently. Or crazy driving out here, so don't want anybody to fall over and get hurt. If you want to stand up briefly, get a better look at something or picture, that's fine. It's a scenic tour. Just try to get back to a seat as soon as you can. And then anytime that we're talking on the mic, we humbly request you keep the conversation amongst yourselves, the cell phone conversations, games, music, ringtones, anything like that, just down to a minimum, or to a whisper, just during the commentary parts, so everyone around you can hear what's being said. Also, as a courtesy to Bryn, it's hard to focus and give a good tour. There's people trying to talk over her, so that'd be great. And if you come up with some questions along the way, just hold on to those until the shore landings. We'll both be able to answer questions for you at those points in time, or maybe answered in further commentary. So just hold on to those till then. Alrighty, this is the Wisconsin River that you're riding on today. This is the longest state-contained river in the nation. Its source is up in a beautiful lake called Lac Vieux des Airs. That's on the border of Wisconsin and Michigan up north, with half of the lake in either state. From Lac Vieux des Airs, the river winds about 435 miles crookedly across the state until it empties into the Mississippi River about 85 miles southwest of us here, just south of Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, at Wyalusing State Park. There's 26 dams along the river's length, taking advantage of the 1,100-foot drop it makes on its way down the river. It's very good for hydroelectricity. As such, 21 of those dams are hydroelectric dams, harnessing the flow. And the first of all of the dams was built right here in the Dells. It was behind us as we left the dock. See it at the end of the tour if you haven't seen it at some point coming through town. That is the Kilbourne Hydroelectric Dam. And they built that in 1909. And separates the upper Dells from the lower Dells, so you're above the dam there on the much larger upper Dells. And it raised the water level up here by about 17 feet after its construction, obscuring some caves and formations, but it made our shore landings easier to access, and the dam still provides power for us to this day. When it comes to this deep cut rocky gorge we call the Dells, it's about 12 miles of the river. The rest of the river is pretty wide, shallow, full of sandbars, kind of nondescript, average depth maybe being 25 feet. Average depth here on the upper Dells is about 35 to 40 feet, with extremes on either side of that. But we're going to leave the city of the Dells behind us here, and also leave behind us the things that didn't necessarily make us famous. The water parks, t-shirt shops, all the fun stuff has been here maybe 50 or 60 years, but we've been giving river tours out here since 1857, so 163 years of boat tours this year. And it was the sandstone cliffs and rocky gorges that originally attracted people to the area. Hopefully we'll be able to show you today why it got so famous in the first place. And I'll be kind of swerving around trying to get everybody the best view of things, broadside to some of the formations. So I am paying attention. We're not just swimming around with it. So just so you know. Might get close to some rocks too. I usually don't hit the rocks. So that's it for me for now. Hand the mic back over to Bryn. She'll tell you about the beautiful upper Dells. And I'll keep the boat between the rocks. Welcome aboard.
Alrighty, our first 2 points of interest are just about on either side of us here. These two tall cliffs on either side of the river. Over on the right here, 65 feet tall, that's called High Rock. And then across the river, ironically 10 feet taller, about 75 feet, is Romance Cliff. Together these form the jaws of the Dells, or the gateway to the upper Dells. And the deepest portion of the entire Wisconsin River is right there between those two cliffs at about 110 feet deep. If you look up ahead of us on the right-hand side, you'll see a large freestanding pillar of rock. It kind of looks like an enormous stack of pancakes. That's called Chimney Rock. It gets its name from its resemblance to the stick and mortar chimneys, popular with the settlers of this area in the 1800s. It's a great example of the frost, wind, and water erosion that shapes the rocks you're seeing out here today. In fact, if you look back along our right shoreline here, kind of behind us, you might notice some more chimney rocks forming there. Come back in 10,000 years, maybe we'll have 2 or 3 to show you. Also on the right-hand side, if you look up ahead of the boat, you'll see a large bare spot in the cliff face, and it kind of is a cliff face. Kind of looks like someone looking crack below for a mouth, crack above for the eyes, and then if you see the sides, could be considered a headdress or regalia. We call that Blackhawk's profile after the leader of the Fox and Sauk tribes. During 1832 and the Black Hawk War, Black Hawk was on the run from the United States government. They were pursuing him further north from his native lands in the Rock River Valley. They thought he might have spent some time here in the Dells on a place called Black Hawk Island, which we'll show you in just a couple of minutes. Eventually he was tricked into surrendering about 40 miles north of here near what's now known as Tomah, and later they were trying to recreate his path and realized he probably never actually passed through the Dells at all. It's much more likely that he went around it, but nevertheless the rumors always persisted and the name stuck. So we still have Black Hawk Island and Black Hawk's profile here in the Dells. Now all the rock you're seeing out here today is a kind of sandstone called Potsdam or Cambrian sandstone. It's got some unique characteristics. First of all, this rock is very soft. If I were to hand you a piece of it, you'd actually be able to crumble it right in your fingers. So that allows the roots of trees and vegetation to dig their way down into the rock, sometimes up to 60 feet, to get all of the support that they need. This rock is also very porous, acts a bit like a sponge, and absorbs a lot of water, so those trees are able to thrive with very little topsoil. So if you look all along the shorelines today, you'll see lots of trees that are growing directly out of the rock. They don't use all of the water that the rock absorbs, though. The rest has to go somewhere. It evaporates back out into the air, and that produces a cooling effect or a microclimate. You might notice it a bit here. It's about 5 degrees cooler between the banks of the river than it was up in town. You'll really feel it, though, at our first stop, the Witch's Gulch, where it's usually around 10 to 15 degrees cooler once you get back into the canyon. Some more about this rock. It's pretty old. Geologists say it's actually some of the oldest exposed bedrock on the face of the earth. They put it around 500 million years old. It's also pretty rare. You can only find it exposed at the surface in 4 places in the world. Those would be Potsdam, Germany, where it gets its name, Zurich, Switzerland. There's a small deposit in upstate New York, but the largest continuous deposit is this 12-mile stretch of the Wisconsin River here in the Dells. Up ahead, you'll see a channel of water splitting off there. That's called the Old Riverbed. It has an average depth of about 3 feet, but this boat drafts 5, so 5 feet of this boat is under the water. We wouldn't quite make it if we went that way. It's a little too shallow for us, but if you had a fishing boat or a pontoon, you could go around that way. We're a little too heavy to try and push and pull, so we're going to head around to the right side over there. There's a channel of water significantly deeper, about 60 feet deep on average, called the Narrows. If you look over to the left in that tallest tree above the old riverbed, you will see a bald eagle sitting on that bare branch. Just over there on our left. Tallest tree sticking up, the bare branch. And a bald eagle sitting there. That's pretty neat. We might see some more on the trip today. They're pretty active this time of year. Try and point them out if we see any more.
I don't know, he doesn't move, so
Well, the old riverbed and the Narrows do meet back up a little further upriver, so that means directly ahead of us is an island. The largest island on the Wisconsin River, about 200 acres. It's called Black Hawk Island. This is where he was rumored to have spent some time on his way up north to escape the militia. It is said that you can find every single species of tree that is native to the state of Wisconsin on this island, so 106 different kinds if you want to try and spot them all. It is owned by the University of Wisconsin Extension Program. They send a lot of research groups out here, but they also allow groups like 4-H clubs, Boy Scouts, and Girl Scouts to explore the island as well.
Are you okay?
Yeah, great.
Over here on the left, sticking out of the shoreline of the island, you're going to see 2 rock formations that look alike in size, shape, and some of the vegetation coming out of the top is similar. The first one is just ahead of us on the left. Second one is about 60 yards further upstream, has the Slow No Wake sign on it there. Because of their similarities, we call these the twin sisters. The first one, her name is Kate. The second one's name is Duplicate. Yes, thank you. We do some really good jokes out here. Courtesy laughter is definitely appreciated. It's going to be a long 2 hours if you don't like my jokes. Over here on the right, you'll see an inlet coming into view called Chapel Gorge because of the cathedral-like setting of the branches interlocking overhead. The rock off to the left-hand entrance resembles a pulpit, so that's on theme. And sometimes we see some of our larger wildlife, like a white-tailed deer down there by the river to get a drink.
No, there is not one right now, but that's sometimes you'll see them.
We are now entering the Narrows. Back before the dam was built in 1909, our river here was used a lot like a highway is used today, mostly with the lumber industry. Lumberjacks would cut down white pine up north, drag the logs out onto the frozen Wisconsin River. During the spring thaw, those logs would float down to sawmills. They would saw them up and assemble them into rafts that were sometimes up to 200 feet long. From those mills, they would continue on down the Wisconsin River, selling their lumber all along the way. Sometimes they went as far as St. Louis and New Orleans after the Wisconsin meets up with the Mississippi. But if you were to ask those raftsmen which part of their journey was the most dangerous, they probably would have told you it was right here in the Dells in a place called the Narrows. Like I said, this was before the dam was built, so water here was about 20 feet lower and the current was unchecked. So there were whitewater rapids and whirlpools that could reach up to 35 miles per hour. Especially dangerous in the spring when the raftsmen are coming through with snowmelt from up north. That's partly what made it so dangerous, but most of it was actually this 90-degree turn in the river up ahead of us. kind of looks like the river comes to an end, but it actually takes a sharp turn off to the left there. So raftsmen would come through on their rafts on the left to hit a whirlpool right there in the middle, shoot out towards the rocks on the right. Quite a few men lost their lives there, so they called it the Devil's Elbow. So many rafts are broken up on that shoreline. Locals used to come down and harvest that lumber, use it to build their homes and barns. Well, the lumber companies were a little upset at all of their losses, both men and lumber, so they hired a group of people called standing river pilots. They considered themselves to be the best at navigating this portion of the river. One in particular, his name was Leroy Gates, and he thought he was the best of the best. He actually left us his own personal business card. My best to point it out here. This will come into view in just a moment. So again, you're looking for two lines of text that are carved directly into the rock over on the left in this little cove coming into view. Look 6 feet above the water on the flat part of the rock, just beneath that large crack and just to the left of that lowest hanging branch. It reads Leroy Gates, Dells and River Pilot from 1849 to 58. Just off to the left. A little easier to see without sunglasses on as well.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Over there. Sounds like some people caught maybe a letter or two. It is pretty difficult to read or even to see, so if you didn't see it, don't feel bad. I know exactly where it is, and sometimes if the lighting's right, I can't even find it, so I might try and point that out again on the way downriver if there's not much traffic ahead of us. So yeah, that reads Leroy Gates, Dells and River Pilot from 1849 to 58. Leroy Gates was a pretty interesting guy. He was often out here in a three-piece suit, top hat, and patent leather shoes while he was navigating the river, and locals used to come down and line these shorelines to watch him navigate through the Devil's Elbow. He did promise to never lose a raft or a life, and he never did, but he did eventually lose his job. Railroads came through Wisconsin, and the lumber companies thought those were a safer and more efficient means of transporting lumber. So that was the end of the lumber trade here on the river. But Leroy Gates, he didn't want to leave. He loved this area, and he had a lot of stories, especially from the lumber rafting days. So he started the very first Dells boat tours. His were a little different than ours. In exchange for 2 quarters, he would hand you 2 oars, and you would row yourself upriver for 6 to 8 hours. While he sat back under his umbrella, sipping his drink, telling you all his stories about the river. So, I don't know, maybe we're more accommodating these days. A little bit. Up ahead there on the left, you'll see the upper end of the old riverbed, that channel of water over there. So that marks the end of Black Hawk Island, which has been on our left or port side all the way up here through the Narrows. To give you an idea, we went around roughly 1/3 of the island.
So thank you for watching. I hope you like it. And wait more for our next part of this tour. I really have to give credit to our tour guide who really did a great job. And of course, the experience is memorable and unforgettable. Till my next part, stay tuned and keep watching my channel, Life in America with Nelia. Don't forget to subscribe, like, click the notification bell. Alright, thank you so much. God bless, guys. See you next time.